Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. So the one drop rule says if you have even one ancestor who is Black, you are Black. But why doesn't that principle play to any other ethnicity? Some people are saying now that the opposite should happen. That if you're not 100% Black, you are not Black. Ouch. I myself think we should all be able to identify as whatever the hell we want. However, you can clearly define someone's ethnicity by the color of their skin, or can you? Let's get down to business. The business of being Black today is defining the ethnicity of biracial people. Please welcome content creator Tony Brien. Hi, Tony.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Criminal justice activist Mona Lisa Johnson is with us again. Hi, Mona Lisa.
Hello, Tammi. Thanks for having me again.
NAACP Image Award nominated actress Crystal Jasmine on deck. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, Tammi. How are you today?
Wonderful. And influencer and YouTuber Cynthia G is down. Hey, Cynthia.
Hey, I'm just happy to be here.
Well, good. Let's make this happen. So my first question every show is, why should Black people care? Why should Black people care what biracial people are identified as? Cynthia, kick us off.
Well, Black people should absolutely care, particularly Black women, because what we're seeing is the biracial identity being Black, it affects Black women primarily. It does not really affect Black men. You don't have white women or Asian women or Hispanic women having to complain about people taking their identity. So this mostly affects Black women. And we should care because of our experiences. There's a certain experience that comes with being Black. And when you have biracial people identifying as Black, it creates a caste system within the Black community. We have an issue with colorism. So essentially the biracial people tend to present as the better version of a Black person, specifically a Black woman. And this affects whether we're getting jobs, whether we get acting, who's representing identity, whether certain skin tones are being left out. So we should definitely care. This has a lot to do with not just our identity, but our experience in society. The reality is biracial is not Black, it's biracial. And I don't understand why there's such an issue with biracial people identifying as biracial. I think when we get into this discussion, to get to the core of it, we should also be asking, why aren't biracial people identifying as white when they have a white parent?
Why should Black people care, Crystal?
Honestly, Cynthia, I'm not going to lie. A couple of things you just said kind of strung a chord for me because, although my mother is a fair-skinned woman, she is not just white. She looks white, but she's very curvaceous, and you can tell that she's mixed. My mother is European and she's also Bayesian. So she technically is a biracial woman herself. It makes it very tricky as far as identifying, with which culture, because I feel like we should be allowed to identify as all of it. We should be allowed to identify as Black as if we want. My father's Nigerian. I have 8 siblings. I am literally the only one that is this fair complected, and it wasn't by choice. So it gets really tough, because it's like sometimes you want to be able to identify with either side. I mean, technically, if you want to bring it down to a percentage, I am more Black than white, but my complexion doesn't show that.
So why should Black people care, Mona Lisa? Why should Black people care what biracial people identify as?
I think Black people should care about what multicultural and biracial people identify as, because we're human too. We want to take a place in this life as well. And we want to identify as being something just like everyone else wants to identify, but we don't want to be pigeonholed into making a choice. Like my father is African-American and my mother is Italian. And I'm from the 60s, born in the 60s, shall I say. And from that very moment, especially in the 80s and in the South, I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice when I went to the driver's license bureau on whether or not I was a white woman or a Black woman. And when I spoke to the woman at the counter, I said, "Hey, I'm mixed. You know, I'm biracial, and in those days we called ourselves half breeds. And I don't want to make a choice as to whether or not I'm black or white. I want to choose both." And she says, "Honey, if you got 1 ounce of black in you, baby, you just got to put black. So mark it." And then she said, "Next." That's why
she sound like she was a black woman.
She was a black woman, and I was like, "How you gonna?" Okay.
Okay. She clearly didn't want you on her side of the fence. That's for sure. Tony, why should Black people care about how biracial people are identified?
Yeah, so I totally agree with a lot with what Cynthia was saying. I feel as if it gets problematic, especially for people who are fully Black, not being able to get a seat at the table, I should say. A lot of opportunities are taken away from fully Black women, primarily because especially when it comes to media, someone that is half Black will get like more of an opportunity than a fully Black person because they are deemed as someone that is considered more attractive, or, because they have more European features or whatever non-Black features that they have is considered better. So though I do feel as if mixed people should be represented, I do feel that it does take away from Black women when they are considered just fully Black or just a Black person in general.
There's a lot to unpack here with what everyone has said. So I want to start with what Crystal said. Crystal said, listen, I have siblings who are much darker than me, and I'm the only one that's this fair skin, and I didn't choose to be this color. I didn't choose to come out this way. But when you talk about it, Tony, you say that her being a light-skinned Black girl, takes away opportunity from those who are 100% Black in tone, I should say, who are not biracial, I want to say. But how is that Crystal's fault? It seems like you might be suggesting that it's America's fault, because if they give her an opportunity because she's prettier by what the system says is prettier, she has access to more jobs, and so she should identify as white so that she can't be a minority, and minorities are still allowed to have those jobs. Those spaces are still open. Is that kind of what you're suggesting, Tony, or am I way off base?
No, I'm more so suggesting that I feel that biracial people should be able to identify as biracial versus them just having the label as I am a Black person, because sometimes they are forced to select that. I honestly feel that people should identify with what they most closely identify with. And same with Crystal saying that she has other siblings that are darker, and they may just want to say, hey, I'm a Black person. I feel like you should identify with whichever component you feel that you closely feel connected to. But in a lot of references in media, and it's not any biracial person's fault and it's not a Black person's fault, but in media and what is displayed on, whether that's movies, television shows, social media, all of that, the person that's mostly shown are people that are mixed, and they are labeled as Black people. And they're like, hey, well, we gave Black people a role, but it's like, no, that's not a fully Black person. And that's more so goes into colorism, I feel, more so than someone being biracial or someone being a Black person.
Cynthia, you said Black people have an experience of their own. It's a culture for the most part. And I've talked about this on my show before. And some people are saying, especially in today's world, there are Black people who don't have the same experience, who aren't bound by the same cultural experiences. And so how do you address that?
Well, here's the thing. Cultural experiences are important, but your actual racial makeup is important as well. And so myself, for example, I am a Black woman, but I grew up in a white suburb. So, I mean, technically I can say I didn't experience, for a lot of my life, I didn't experience what other Black people who grew up in different areas may have experienced, but I'm still a Black woman. I'm still going to own my identity. I'm just not sure why it's an issue for biracial people to identify as biracial. That's what I'm having the confusion with, because, and it's what Tony said, where they're getting certain privileges based on their proximity to whiteness, but their identity is Black. And we already know how much Black women have had to struggle in this country for accomplishments, for recognition, for praise that we still don't get. So to have non-Black people move into that space, because there are no parameters on it. You have Rachel Dolezal saying that she's Black. You'll have full-on white people saying that they're Black for the purposes of getting benefits that may come with it, but they have no connection to it. And we have to think about the parents of the biracial person. Most biracial people have a white mother and a Black father. They have a high rate of single mothers. So you have essentially Black women having their minds molded by white women, and a white woman isn't going to give a Black identity. So most of the time, like, they don't relate to Black women. They're lumped in the category of Blackness, but they understand it's their proximity to whiteness that they can actually essentially weaponize against actual Black people.
How can you say that, Cynthia, when your proximity to whiteness is more than the average Black woman as well? How do you hold those same Black experiences?
It's really not, though. The average makeup of a Black person in this country, because of, we know the history, is about 25% white. Mine is about 19. So I actually don't have the average makeup. We can even still say I have the average makeup. Oh, that's fine. But when I present very differently than a biracial person, I am obviously very aesthetically Black. It is clear that I have two Black parents, which your average biracial person is not. They carry, especially given the fact that when the creation of a biracial person is happening, you have a Black person who is partly white too. So that Black person's white genetics is going into it as well as the white person. So what ends up happening is...
We'll get to see what Crystal has to say when we return. We've got to take a quick break, Cynthia G. Didn't mean to cut you off. We'll be right back on the business of being Black to see how Crystal feels about all of this. Girl, your emotions should be swelling up over there, swelling, because you're Black.
They are.
Welcome back to the business of being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and the business of being Black today is defining the ethnicity of biracial people. Please welcome content creator Tony Brian, criminal justice activist Mona Lisa Johnson, NAACP Image Award nominated actress Crystal Jasmine, and influencer and YouTuber Cynthia G. Crystal, a lot said here about you being able to identify yourself as biracial. What is your preference? Would you prefer to be identified as Black, white, or biracial?
You know, I had to take some deep breaths during that break. I'm literally sweating over here from everything that was said. I was doing my best to remain professional and not just interject myself. It's me personally, I feel forced to say biracial a lot of the times. You know, I personally like to identify as Black, and I have an amazing reason. Like, I feel like, you know, Cynthia, from her personal experiences, might be on base, but from, you know, I feel like it is a huge generalization for a lot of biracial people. You know, me personally, my father's Nigerian. Like I said, he is not mixed with white in any way, shape, or form. I grew up celebrating Kwanzaa. He has African names for all of me and my siblings, you know, so I grew up celebrating those types of, you know, cultural differences. My mother, she may be biracial and seen as white in society, but she herself was raised by my grandfather, that's a Black Panther. So to say that, you know, white people or white women are, you know, subjecting the Black children to white ideals is not always true. My mother was very much raised as a Black woman herself. Like, people hear my mom talk and they're like, where are you from? What are you mixed with? Because there's nothing white about her except for the tone of her skin, barely, you know? So to say that, you know, me being biracial, having a white mom means that I have these white ideals and that my father wasn't present or didn't raise us with any other, you know, ideas as far as our Black history is very upsetting, you know? And it's like, I have full blood siblings that are much darker than me. We were raised exactly the same. Why do they get to identify as Black and I don't?
What do you identify as?
I identify as Black.
Mona Lisa, how do you feel? Jump in here.
Well, you know, I'm feeling the same way. I'm sweating over here. I don't even know why. Every time I start talking about this whole subject, it makes me really filled with anxiety because, you know, ever since I was younger, I've never been Black enough. I've never been white enough. And as I grew older and I started working in the television field and in the field of social justice, I've never been anything other than they don't know what I am. They're always questioning, is she Black? Is she white? What difference does it make? What difference does it make? That's number one. Number two, when I was younger, I was raised in a predominantly Black neighborhood. My dad and mother stayed together until I was about 8 years old. And then my dad married a Black woman. And so therefore she pretty much raised us and kind of put all the stuff in us. And I really didn't get to know any part of my white family. They disowned us because they said, and I will quote this, I will have nothing to do with raising nigger children. That's what my grandmother and my grandfather told my mother, who's no longer here on the earth, that they would have nothing to do with us. And so we knew nothing about our white side of our family. But does that mean that I didn't experience it growing up? No, it doesn't mean that, because I've always been around all types of people all of my life. But my true experience and the way I grew up was 100% Black. And how do I identify is I am a Black woman. Just because my skin does not denote that, girl, you better look at my hair, okay? My hair is better now these days that we have all these great products, that are designed for multicultural women and for mixed women. But when I was younger, I looked like a nappy-headed, big fro chick. I mean, I just looked like nobody could do anything with my hair. My mom didn't know what to do. My dad didn't know what to do. It wasn't until my dad married a Black woman that she started being able to do something with my hair. And I started feeling like a human again, and like I was beautiful, and like I had reason and purpose to live.
So then that's an interesting point of view. What if, Tony, there is a light-skinned Black woman whose mother is Black and whose father is Black?
Yeah. And this is exactly, I think I'm glad you asked that question, because I feel like from both perspectives, this is honestly more so a societal problem. And that's why I even said I made a video about this on my YouTube channel when I said that I feel as if you honestly should identify what you feel you most fit, because as you guys stated, Crystal and Mona Lisa, that from your cultural standpoint, you feel like you are a Black woman. And that's like from your experience, that's like your experience completely. And I think from what Cynthia was saying was more so along the lines of people that don't have that cultural experience. And that's why I feel it just gets to be a very sticky situation, a sticky topic, because Black women, we do honestly struggle with feeling represented and loved and identified, especially when it comes to just like something like hair texture. Growing up, all I saw on like YouTube, first of all, it was hard to find videos with women with my texture. I have like 4A, 4B hair. At first, it was just hard to find Black women in general. Then you have Black.
I don't even think white folk know what you're talking about.
Dealing with kinkier textured hair. And then, so when you're on these YouTube channels, and then you start seeing women that do have curly hair, but it's not your curls. And that's what's being promoted all the time. And it honestly makes you question, is my hair beautiful? And it takes a lot and a lot of self-love and great parenting to make sure that you truly love yourself and embrace yourself. Because in media, what's considered pretty, if you are a Black woman, a lot of the time are light skin or women with like more European features and curlier textured hair. So that's why I would always consider it more of a societal problem, more so than a Black versus mixed problem. There are people that feed into the stereotypes and feed into the issues, but it definitely is something that we see a lot, because media is what we see every single day, and it is a problem in society.
Yeah. Crystal, yes, go ahead, Mona Lisa.
I'm sorry, Tammy, can I say this? I mean, I want to interject that I would like us to possibly consider the idea that there's Black on Black jealousy. Black on Black jealousy. Like, I have never been discriminated by more people in my life than Black people. The white people don't do this to me as much as my own brothers and sisters do it to me. Black or dark-skinned Black women have treated me like, how dare you even call yourself Black? You don't know anything about being Black. And my light-skinned sisters have said, because you've got that skinny nose and those tiny lips is why you can get away. You're a passe blanc, as they say in New Orleans. That means pass for white.
Cynthia, you're itching and you're squirming in your seat over there. Are you jealous?
I am.
Are you jealous?
No, I'm actually offended at the Black woman because all I'm hearing is why it's beneficial for biracial people to identify as Black, but they're not thinking about how that's a detriment to Black women. And so for me, if I'm sitting here with two Black parents and a biracial person that has a white parent and a Black person is saying that they're Black, then that has to make me question, what am I? Am I a lesser Black woman? Because we certainly don't, like, we don't share the same phenotype. We don't share the same genetic makeup. We don't share the same hair texture. It is very clear that Crystal and Mona Lisa have a different parent than I do. It is very, very clear. They have a different phenotype than I do. So for biracial people, even to go with the narrative that they're being discriminated against by Black women, because Black women want to keep our identity to ourselves because we understand how you benefit from our identity, not only in the white community, but you benefit in the Black community as well. So I just think that biracial women have zero respect for Black women. I think they don't like Black women, because if you did, you would consider how you're co-opting of our identity rather than just sticking to your own, which is biracial. Then you can't possibly care. Like, why are you discounting your white parents? That's what I don't understand. And why won't you classify as white?
Crystal, that's a good question. Why won't you classify as white? There's an old movie, and it's a classic, The Imitation of Life, where there's a biracial woman who refuses to identify as Black. I mean, in all honesty, don't you benefit and privilege? Aren't you privileged to be biracial more so than a Black woman, Crystal?
Absolutely not. For me, I find it offensive to hear that, because at the end of the day, I feel we do get discriminated from on both sides. It's not a benefit being, identifying as Black. It's not a benefit identifying as white. We don't fit on either side. Black women clearly, I feel like, don't like racial women for the simple fact that we're not 100% Black, which again is not our choice. Secondly, I don't identify as white because my white side of my family is not all white. They are themselves biracial. So how am I going to identify as something that I am not completely of just because my skin tone is a lot fairer?
So if you're not biracial, why are you representing biracial then?
I represent myself as Black, and I stated that when she asked.
Let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack, where the business of being Black today is biracial people. What should they be identified as? Tony, Mona Lisa said that when she was born, her grandparents, who are white, said, "I want to have nothing to do with that N-word child." And I'm presuming, Mona Lisa, they stuck to that till the day they died.
They did.
So how does that gel with what we're talking about today, Tony, in terms of her identifying as white, but white people won't welcome her? And then it seems as if Black people aren't willing to accept biracial people either.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't fully speak to that, mainly because I am not biracial. But I will say so this is why I'm saying, like, from my perspective, from what I've seen, I have not seen like anybody, at least on like my Black side ever, like my immediate family have ever went against anybody that is racial. They've been accepted and bring them with welcoming arms. But like I said, I don't want to like really speak to that if it's not my predominant experience. But I do feel that a lot of the times, that, especially back in the day, that's something that was very, very normalized. And why now I see a lot of mixed people, biracial people, whatever you want to identify that group of people as, identifying with one side more than the other, because from what I'm saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, this is not my experience, but it seems as if the Black side has been more welcoming, like they're not going to completely shun you out of their lives because you are considered a mixed child.
Well, Cynthia, Mona Lisa says Black people discriminate against her more than white people, but then in the same in the same experience, she says that her white grandparents completely disowned her. So where is a position for biracial people, Cynthia G, if Blacks or whites won't welcome them?
So here's what I find to be very interesting and typical of what biracial people tend to do. They will say that, I can't identify as white, which we know white is closed. We know that white is a protected identity because there's power that comes with exclusivity. So whiteness is off the table. It's just not an option. And that's the reality of why biracial people don't identify as white, because they can't. But I'm pretty sure they will love the social prestige and privilege that comes with being white, but they don't have that option. So what they do is they want to bogart into the Black community, specifically on Black women, and say, I'm Black, I want your identity because my white side won't let me use theirs. And if you don't allow me to use it, then I'm going to call you racist. But there's nothing more racist than, number one, your white parent disowning you because you're Black, and then not even allowing you to identify as white because you're Black. But yet they don't have a beef with the white community because they can't be white. They have a beef with the Black community who won't, or Black women, because we don't want them taking our identity because there's negative consequences about that. That's why I'm saying biracial people don't care about Black women.
I want her to jump in here. Mona Lisa, do you not identify as white because you can't identify as white, as Cynthia G said?
No, that's absolutely incorrect. And I never said it was racist either. I said jealous. Let's consider the word jealousy here. I don't consider, let me just say this, from the 60s to about the 80s, they forced me, the government, meaning by my driver's license, by, everything that I had to fill out paperwork wise, they forced me to choose that I had to identify as Black. My internal being struggled with the idea that I wanted to be both, because my mother was still present in my life, even though she was, divorced from my father. She was still present, and I still got to experience her. But, I don't feel like in any way, shape, and form, as we started to move into the 90s and the 20s and stuff like that, or the 2000s, as we started moving into that, I started to see the evolvement of mankind. And I started to see that the younger people are starting to come to the table and demand that multicultural and biracial individuals be seen and be heard and be categorized as a particular person. I was just filling out my health insurance paperwork yesterday, and that was one of the boxes I could check. And I just got so elated. I didn't know what to do.
You say that, you mean biracial?
It said multicultural.
Multicultural.
And I was totally shocked. I was just shocked, but I checked it because I was like, at the end of the day, biracial, multicultural, race, all of that to me, still is a myth, as to all of the terminologies and the definitions and stuff like that. I feel like a Black woman because I've experienced the Black culture and the experience of being Black. And I love that. I also would never deny my mother's Italian white heritage, ever. I've never been ashamed of it either. The only thing is that I just have to constantly I'm 55 years old, and I still have to this day, define who I am the minute I walk into a room. And that is quite aggravating on everyone. I can
imagine. Crystal, are you not representing yourself as white because white people won't let you in their circle?
Not at all. Like I said, my mother was raised by my grandfather, who is a Black. So again, she's Bajan. She's not just, and she's Punjabi. So she's not just white just because she is fair complected, so there's no all white, 100% white in my family. We're all biracial on that side. And then my Black side, we're Black and Native American. So it's not any part of me that is like, oh, society has changed. I can't identify as white. I don't want to. I don't have a reason to.
Tony, do you think biracial people are confused about their identity?
I would say there definitely is confusion with identity. I think they have to grow up with that all their lives, as we've already heard from two women that could attest to this. They have said that they have had struggles with picking a side, trying to see who they are. But I think I just want to speak on more so the fact that, though I think we made it clear that biracial people, they might be raised by a certain culture and identify with that culture. But I think that what's missing is more so the privilege that biracial people have over Black women in many, many categories. And though you may not know because that's not your experience, but just once again, like growing up, I could just remember in middle school, like all the Black boys would always say, oh, I like her because she's mixed, or she's light skinned, she has curly hair. Like you hear that all the time. I don't think it becomes a jealousy. That's why I don't really want to put the whole Black women are jealous of biracial women and biracial women are jealous of Black women. I don't want to call it a jealousy thing. I think it's just when you constantly hear, especially darker skinned Black women, constantly hear that this group of people are more attractive and that's all they hear, that's why they may say, you don't have the same experience that I have as a dark skinned Black woman, or you don't have the experience as I have as a Black woman, period. Because there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not saying that your struggles don't exist, but there definitely is a privilege over Black women in many, many, many categories, whether in media or even like working in the day-to-day life.
Crystal, Tony, and Cynthia both have suggested that you have a privilege that they don't. And there has to be some truth to that. Do you see that at all?
No, I feel like it's a
So you don't
stereotype.
see the music videos that use light-skinned women with curly hair. You don't see the boxes when you go to the hair salon and the representation as they the representation that they use on those boxes for hair goods and products. There's just so much that.
I mean, I visually see it. Yes, I'm not going to deny that I don't see, a lot of music videos that have lighter, fair complected women, but I feel like it is more, I don't see it as a privilege. I see it as, being used, I don't feel like we fit in on either side. So I don't see it as like, oh, I've got a one up on you because I'm fair complected. I feel like it's disgusting. Personally, and again, I'm gonna go back to my siblings being darker complected. Like, I don't see like I have a privilege over my sisters,
But
I
just
feel
in
like
that experience alone, would you say that your sisters who are darker than you have received treatment that wasn't equal to yours? Because what I do know, and this irritates me to no end, when there are two little kids and one is light skinned with the curly hair and then there's a dark skin, there's always more attention paid to the light skin with curly hair. And there's always this, you're so pretty. Oh, she's so pretty. So she grows up to believe in her beauty. But then the darker skinned woman, not so much. Did you witness that with your siblings?
I've seen that in society, but not in my personal family. My father was very much, we are all equal. So I think why it bothers me so much is because we were raised the same. And it was kind of the opposite. Because my dad is Nigerian, my sisters seem to get the more praise. Like, I was jealous of my sisters for the fact that they had more melanated skin, that their hair was a different texture. I felt like there was something wrong with me. Because
let's take a quick break. We'll come right back. We'll take a quick break. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and the business of being Black today is identifying biracial ethnicity, if you will. I have with me today content creator Tony Brian, criminal justice activist Mona Lisa Johnson, NAACP Image Award nominated actress Crystal Jasmine, influencer and YouTuber Cynthia G is here with us. Before the break, I was asking Crystal, had she experienced her own privilege in terms of being biracial? She said, no, not really. Mona Lisa, what about you?
I'm going to say, I'm ashamed to admit this, but the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I have some stepsisters. And my stepsisters are very dark-skinned Black. And we've gone, and cousins also who are very dark-skinned. And we've gone to stores before, and I'm walking around kind of minding my own business. And then they're just maybe on the other side of me. And the next thing we know, we watch somebody following them because they're being accused of stealing, but we're in a high-end store. They're not even looking at me. I've experienced that. I've experienced having to show my birth certificate, and on my birth certificate, it says Negro. As my race, right? It says Negro as my race. And I've had white people say to me, why would you want to leave that on your birth certificate? Get yourself a newer birth certificate where they don't even show the color or race anymore, and claim who you really are. I mean, look at you, you look white. Oh, I've definitely experienced the privilege side of it, but do I want to do that? And do I want to live in that energy? The answer would be no. I want to be truthful to who I am on both sides.
The experience that you've had with your siblings in the store and they being pinned with being thieves and you not so much, does that give you a sense of guilt? Do you feel guilty if you acknowledge your non-Black side?
I did when I was younger, yes. feel like I want to cry now. I absolutely felt that when I was younger because I felt like I was betraying my family and betraying me as a human. But as I got older, I started realizing I didn't choose this. This is how God made me. And because this is how God made me, this is just who I am. I can no longer apologize, and I will not apologize for who I am anymore. I won't feel guilty, and I won't be ashamed of it.
Crystal, do you feel a sense of guilt when it comes to acknowledging the white side of you? You don't really acknowledge that there is a white side.
Not fully. I mean, I guess because my white side doesn't really acknowledge their white part of themselves either. So it's kind of hard to, acknowledge something that wasn't really taught to me necessarily. So, they don't, they identify as mixed. I identify as mixed. My black side, I identify as black. So I've got the attitude, and that's just how I was raised. I can't help it.
Cynthia G, who should be able to say who is white, who is black, or let's just say who is black? Who should be able to say who is black?
Well, I think who should be able to say who is black people. But I do recognize that we live in a society where, again, whiteness is closed off. So people who visibly are not looking white do not have the option of being white. And I think what Mona Lisa said was a contradiction, because in one breath she said that she was filling out an application and she was forced to put black on there. But then she said that she's identifying as black because she wants to, not because white isn't an option. Well, if you're being forced to identify as something, then one of them is not an option to you. But I think black people should be determining it. I think we need to disregard the one drop rule that wasn't really about who's actually black. It was actually about keeping money out of the black community. It wasn't about establishing a person as black. It was literally to turn an entire white man into a black man for the purposes of keeping wealth out of the community. And then for Crystal to say she does not recognize the privilege as she's entering into the black community where whiteness is put on a pedestal and proximity to whiteness is put on a pedestal is disingenuous. Furthermore, Bayesian is not a race. So, I'm trying to get out of your mother's culture and into her actual race, because Bayesian is not a race. So she could very well be fully white and you're biracial, which is what you came to represent, because you're driving the argument for biracials, while then claiming to be black. I think this is just, especially when Mona Lisa stating that black women are jealous of biracial people, this is a gaslighting technique to bully black women into handing over their identity to a woman that has herself admitted that she does not present as black. When I walk out of my home, no one is confusing me but for anything other than black. But Crystal would get questioned on her blackness, and Mona Lisa certainly would get questioned on her blackness. I would not. So to disregard the experiences of black women and the consequences of you identifying as a black woman when you're not is actually your racism rather than ours. I think it's a complete disregard. I'm not comfortable with the assertion that I'm not even needed in the creation of myself. Essentially, for you to be black, that means that a white woman can give birth to a black woman, and black women are so insignificant that we're not even needed in the creation of ourselves.
Mona Lisa, she mentioned that you contradicted yourself. Did you want to respond to that?
Yes, I did. The whole story, obviously isn't told, so you can't necessarily assume that there was a contradiction there. Again, I said this is when I was in my very young years, in my 20s, okay? So in my 20s, when I go to get my driver's license and somebody tells me and refuses to grant me a driver's license unless I make a choice that they want me to make, I was forced into it. So I will still stand on that. And then I will also stand on the fact that as I got older, I definitely chose to be Black because I realized as time went on, yeah, I am a multicultural woman. Absolutely, I'm a multicultural woman. But when it comes down to what do you have to identify as, I have to identify as the Black culture because I really don't know any other culture outside of that. So I don't feel like that is any way, shape or form conflicting information. That's just saying this is what happened to me, and this is where I am today. I would love it if I could just say I'm multicultural completely and just leave me alone on whether I'm Black, whether I'm white, whether I'm whatever. And you're going to be around me and you're going to feel like you're around a Black woman all the time. But I definitely don't discount the most beautiful, powerful woman in this world, and that is the Black woman. I don't disregard her. I don't discount her. And I do not, I repeat, I do not think that she doesn't have the right to stand tall and proud in who she is without the infiltration of other and outside, outside influences and things that are going on in our culture. So for me, I celebrate the woman, and I want you to know that, Cynthia.
But you can't celebrate the Black woman and then say the Black woman is racist and jealous because we have an issue with you identifying as a Black woman.
She never said racist. She said jealous. I want to make.
Well, she said she's experienced more racism from Black people than she has from white people. I'm assuming, based off of the context, it sounded like it applied towards the identity of Blackness and restricting Blackness from her. That's what it came off as to me. But she can clarify that if she would like to.
Yeah, I think you're seeing two tunnel vision and not allowing yourself to broaden your horizon and your thought process. When I said let's challenge the thought of whether or not it's jealousy, I didn't say I think Black women are jealous. I think that's a great conversation to have because it's been brought up in my life multiple times. Am I jealous of them? Are they jealous of me? Is this a jealousy situation? I wanted us to have some proactive conversation. I think you're kind of pinpointing certain things and pushing the envelope to the point where you're pushing words and thoughts on people, and particularly me. And so, I definitely don't do anything but celebrate the Black woman, and you or no one else can tell me otherwise.
Crystal, Cynthia said that your mother, how you identify your mother is not a race. It's not an ethnicity. You want to speak to that?
I really agree with Mona Lisa. I mean, there has been no point where we are saying, or I am saying, let me speak for myself. There's no point where I have said anything negative towards the darker complected Black woman. And it seems as though, Cynthia is very much in attack mode in regardless what we say. I can't help how my family raised me. I can't help. I'm from East Oakland, California. I was raised around nothing but Black people, my whole family. I was raised with my Black side of my family. So again, if that's how I identify, whether you agree, don't agree, that's not really my concern. I mean, I have never bashed a darker complected Black woman. I love my siblings for the complexion.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back on Business of Being Black. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack on Foxsoul. Tony, what do you think about this conversation? Crystal and Mona Lisa both say that they're in no way trying to diss the Black woman.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of like on both sides at this point. I feel as if there's a lot of information just not being understood fully. I mostly identify, I will say, with Cynthia, I think because we're both like fully Black women and we have similar experiences in that regard. But I also feel as if Mona Lisa and Crystal are not necessarily being malicious. I think their wording is, it could be seen as a little offensive when it does come to identifying the Black woman's experience. And I'm hoping that it's not with malicious intent that what they're saying in reference to. So I was a little bit confused too, as well with Cynthia when Mona Lisa said about Black women being jealous of mixed women, because I've never been jealous by now when you said that you were just throwing it out there as an idea, something to talk about. So, but yeah, at that point, it was kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't ever say that me personally, I've never been jealous of a mixed woman. I just am very clear on from my experience on how mixed women definitely do have a privilege. So I think what's being missed out on is definitely the privilege aspect, and just being able to identify, even if you personally don't think that you're better than a Black woman, I think we have to acknowledge the fact that in several scenarios, there are a lot of mixed women that do feel, I don't want to say a lot, but there are mixed women that do feel as if they are better than the Black woman because they have different complexion, lighter hair.
But can we also say that if that is a thought of some biracial women, mm-hmm. that thought has been perpetuated by American society?
For sure. By American society, even by Black men. And a lot of that is self-taught. Because growing up, I was saying my little 6th grade self we would hear little Black boys in that classroom saying that I want a mixed girl, or I want a woman that's Puerto Rican, Dominican, because they look better. That's what we were hearing. And it's definitely being pushed. The same exact ideas are being pushed from generation to generation. And it's because what we see in media, we don't see dark-skinned Black women, rarely we even see, if we do, they're lighter skin. They probably don't even pass my color. They're always seen as, these lighter women are seen as better than, and that's what's displayed and seen as greatness.
They call them yellow bones and red bones.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we heard growing up.
Back in my day.
Yep.
So tell us about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I do commentary, and I actually recently just did a video on hair and Black women in our hair. And I actually mentioned mixed women and how they are seen as the forefront, especially when it comes to texture and being seen and deemed as someone that has like good hair, and the discussion of good hair and what nappy hair is.
Yeah, because my hair texture don't look nothing like no biracial hair texture. I be buying all them mixed chicks products and stuff, and I'm like, this ain't working on my head. Somebody somewhere create a product that works on the Black woman's head, that has the Black woman's, kinkiness like I have. That I have a curl, but it's a different kind of textured curl.
With a little more spring to it, a little bouncy.
Yeah, and when I get in the water, it don't look all, it's not like I don't be wanting to shake it like that, because it just
wake up and just go. No,
you gotta go up,
you
so I
gotta
can't shake it like that. Mona Lisa, please talk to us about your YouTube series, Prisoner of Hope.
Prisoner of Hope TV is a look into the lives of families who've been affected by incarceration. We've picked some really good stories to kind of highlight, just as I was and my family was affected by incarceration. We're just looking at the family issues and how people in general are just being discounted when they've gone to prison and when they come out and are given another chance at life. It's a very, in my opinion, telling series. And hopefully someday we can move to another season where we can highlight even more stories. My goal, obviously, is to highlight the African-American family as well as the Latino family. But, it's there. Go take a look at it.
Crystal, please talk to us about your latest project.
So I have been working on a couple different projects. I will say I'm still waiting on Forbidden Love by director Alan M. Brooks to come out. I think it would be, it's a love romance with a little twist at the end. And Mr. and Mrs. Ellis also, I need to find out where it's viewable again. But it is very important in regards to talking to, family secrets and, being able and confident to speak up with a secret that a lot of families go through, especially in the Black community, and freeing yourself from holding that type of stuff in.
Cynthia G, what can you tell us about your YouTube, Cynthia G, where intellect meets real talk?
Well, my YouTube channel is focusing on the relationship dynamic between Black women and Black men primarily. Of course, an important aspect of that is the biracial pathology, because we know that the biracial people are coming from Black people. So it relates. And to be honest, a lot of that pathology I've seen on the panel, actually. So it actually directly relates to my content. But it's mostly towards Black women developing self-love, boundaries, expectations, and learning how to navigate their relationships in a manner that's going to be more conducive to their own success.
I've heard biracial people also say that even when they say they're not Black, they're biracial, they get grief from even that. I think Mona Lisa has said it here on the panel that she gets grief when she says white, when she says Black, when she says biracial. So how should one rectify or, that whole situation, Mona Lisa?
I wanted to say, let's just let Cynthia answer that. But she's a brilliant woman. She's a brilliant woman. And I don't want you to ever feel like you're gaslit, because that's not what I want to do. I just want to say, we're all human. Let's not lead with hatred. Let's lead with love. And let's just allow ourselves to say multicultural. Can we say that? Would that be all right?
I have no problem with multicultural or biracial. That's what I was asking. What is the problem with identifying as what you are, which is biracial?
But if that's not a box to check, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Well, it is though. There's many forms are catching up to the rise in multicultural people. So you can select more than one race, or there is categories. But I think that if this is something that's important to biracial people where they feel like they don't fit in either group, it's probably because you're not either group. You're a mixture of both of them. And perhaps that could give them something to work for, which is their own racial classification and identification, because
So
they
I want to kind of reel this in one word, everybody, in one word. How do we bridge the gap between biracial people and those who are Black? Tony, one word.
Work together. That's 2 words, but work together.
It's all good. Crystal, what you got?
Well, it's kind of a hyphenated word, self-love.
Ah, like it. Mona Lisa?
Love.
Cynthia G?
acknowledgement and empathy.
Love it, love it, love it. This concludes Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Stick around for Hollywood Unlocked on Foxsoul. Until tomorrow, everybody, it's a blessing to be in your box. Crystal, Cynthia G, Mona Lisa, and Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you.